the forbidden version of human history. What if the most advanced civilization in human history is the one that existed before everything we call history? Before writing, before kingdoms, before the flood. A civilization that did not simply build cities, but understood the structure of reality itself. Let us be honest about our place in the universe. What do we truly understand about reality today? We call ourselves modern, intelligent, advanced. We believe we are the peak of civilization. We compare ourselves to cave people and declare ourselves superior, as if human progress can only move upward. Yet our certainty collapses when we look closely. We still cannot explain the nature of reality. Our two greatest scientific theories, relativity and quantum physics, contradict each other. One describes the very large, one describes the very small. They cannot be reconciled, which means our worldview rests on a contradiction. So who decided the ancients were the ones who misunderstood reality? Is it so impossible that earlier humans lived in a different state of consciousness, not educated by classrooms or textbooks, but by direct perception of a universe we can no longer sense? We rely on equations to describe reality. They may have felt it directly. Perhaps the ancient world held truths we lost. Perhaps our arrogance blinds us to what they once saw clearly. Fragments of that world still exist. They are carved into stone, encoded in myths, aligned with the stars, and scattered across the planet in the form of pyramids and megaliths that no modern theory can fully explain. Egypt, Sudan, Mexico, Guatemala, Peru, Indonesia, China, Bosnia, even underwater ruins near Japan and India. Cultures that never met built the same impossible pattern. Pyramids, cyclopean walls, resonant chambers, stonework so precise modern engineers still cannot replicate it. We are told these were tombs or temples. We are told ancient builders used ropes, ramps, chisels, and brute force, but nothing about these structures behaves like primitive construction. The geometry is too perfect, the acoustics too exact, the astronomical alignments too deliberate, the stone shaping too advanced. These structures look less like monuments and more like instruments, devices built to interact with the world in a way we no longer remember. Our civilization builds through force. Engines push, hydraulics lift, metal cuts stone. Everything is mechanical and wasteful. The ancient world shows something completely different. It shows resonance. Granite chambers vibrating at specific frequencies. Massive stones fitting together with liquid precision. Pyramids aligned with star systems across continents. Entire complexes behaving like harmonic structures. The technology based not on force, but on tuning matter itself. This is where modern archaeology fails. Archaeology studies pottery, bones, and soil, but it cannot measure resonance, frequency, electromagnetic anomalies, astronomical intention, or geometric coding. For more than a century, we used one discipline to study structures that require physics, mathematics, engineering, geology, acoustics, and astronomy working together. This is why the ancient world appears primitive, not because it was, but because we have been using the wrong tools. So what if the megaliths were built in a world that operated differently? A world where matter behaved more coherently. A world where human perception was sharper. A world where consciousness interacted with frequency the way we interact with sight or sound. Every ancient civilization remembers such a world. The Sumerians called it the era before the flood. The Egyptians called it the first time. The Hindus called it the Krita Yuga. The Abrahamic tradition describes it through the early generations before the fall. The Sumerian king list records it plainly. 8 kings ruled for a combined 241,200 years. These are not dynasties. These are individuals whose lifespan stretched across cosmic cycles. Then one line appears. Then the flood swept over. After that, everything collapses. Lifespans fall from tens of thousands of years to thousands, then to hundreds, and eventually to the short lives we know today. This is not myth. It is memory. A record of a fall in human perception, capability, and longevity. Islamic tradition describes the same event. Early humans were not primitive. They became forgetful only after the fall. For 6 generations after Adam, humans did not write because memory was long and knowledge was accessed directly. Writing begins only with Idris, known as Enoch, not as progress, but as a sign of decline. Writing appears because memory failed. The Sumerians describe this fall through the concept of the me. These were not books. They were fields of knowledge governing mathematics, astronomy, architecture, kingship, and civilization itself. Earlier humans did not learn the me. They accessed them the way we access memory. After the flood, the me were confused. Knowledge fragmented. Writing became necessary. Humanity restarted at a lower level of consciousness. The Egyptians remembered this knowledge through Thoth. The Greeks remembered it through Hermes. The Hermetic tradition calls him Hermes Trismegistus. He taught that mind and matter reflect each other. As above, so below, as within, so without. This was not metaphor. It was physics, expressed through language. If ancient humans lived for thousands of years, they did not simply live longer. They lived across astronomical cycles. They watched constellations drift through precession. They saw the rhythm of solar activity. They witnessed planetary harmonics. They experienced the sky as a living clock. We see a moment. They saw epochs. They did not need telescopes because their lifespans allowed them to observe the heavens. They did not need writing because memory lasted centuries. They did not need machines because resonance allowed them to shape matter directly. Then something changed. A collapse in the coherence of the solar system. A weakening magnetic field. A shift in the atmosphere. A change in Earth's resonance. A break in the information field that earlier humans accessed naturally. The flood myths describe water, but beneath the water is a deeper idea. A collapse in the structure of the world. A fall in consciousness. After this collapse, humans forgot what earlier generations knew. They lived shorter lives. They needed writing. The megaliths became silent. The structures remained. The understanding disappeared. This is why the pyramids point to the sky. They were not built to worship stars. They were built to stay connected to the field that once flowed between the earth and the heavens. A field that shaped human consciousness and is now out of reach. What survives today are the physical remnants of that world. Stone that speaks without words. Geometry that echoes cosmic patterns. Alignments that trace invisible cycles. A global network of structures built by a civilization that interacted with reality in a way we have forgotten. Maybe the ancients were not trying to ascend to the heavens. Maybe they were trying to remain connected to them. And maybe the knowledge of that world is not lost. It is just out of reach, out of our frequency range. Waiting for a species that remembers how to tune itself back into the field that shaped humanity before the fall. The real question is not what the ancients knew. The real question is what we might remember if the resonance of the world shifted again. If humanity once lived in a coherent world where consciousness aligned with the deeper structure of reality, the fall did not happen instantly. It felt like a fading signal. In that fading world, a few individuals still sensed what others could no longer reach. They held fragments of the memory field. They received impressions, insight, knowledge beyond ordinary senses. These individuals became what we now call prophets. Prophecy only seemed supernatural from the outside. If earlier humans were tuned into a field that carried information, prophecy is simply the final visible trace of a lost human ability. Hermes Trismegistus wrote that the human mind can remember the things of the divine when it is cleared from distortion. He said the mind within us is part of the greater mind of the universe. Thoth was described as the one who restores the forgotten words of the beginning and reveals the hidden order of creation. In a world of higher resonance, a person could perceive patterns the way we perceive weather. They could sense cycles. They could access memories beyond their own. They could see further because their consciousness matched a structure larger than themselves. When the world's resonance collapsed, most people lost that ability, but a few retained fragments of the old tuning. They dreamt in alignment with the deeper order. They saw what others could not. This is why prophetic visions feel like messages. They are glimpses of a field that once shaped the entire human experience. Our world rejects this idea because our physics is broken in two halves that do not fit together. Relativity for the large, quantum physics for the small. Two maps of reality that cannot be merged. Yet modern technology gives us a perfect analogy. For example, all radio stations exist in the air at once. The signal is everywhere, but you can hear only the one you are tuned to. Human consciousness once worked the same way. The field was always present. The knowledge was everywhere. Only the tuned mind could read it, and the existence of such a field explains instinct. A newborn animal knows how to feed, when to flee, how to hide, and what to avoid. A mother knows how to care for her young without instruction. These behaviors appear from nowhere, as if remembered rather than learned. Instinct makes sense if animals, like humans, access a shared memory field physics has not yet detected. In a coherent world, everyone could hear the broadcast. After the fall, only a few could. Those few became the prophets of history. This also explains a mystery in later civilizations. When humanity drifted further from the original state, cultures like the Greeks and Romans inherited fragments of stories about earlier humans who lived longer, saw deeper, remembered more, and possessed unusual abilities. Unable to understand these abilities, they turned them into mythology. The Greeks called these figures gods. The Romans called them deities. But these beings were not divine. They were humans from an earlier state of consciousness, or descendants who still carried traces of the old tuning. To a civilization that could no longer access the field, a person with heightened perception appeared supernatural. Prophets became demigods. Sages became divine messengers. Ancient kings became immortals in myth. The ancients mistaken for gods were simply closer to the original human condition, still holding access to the memory field that the rest had lost. The ancients were not imagining strange visions. They were experiencing a reality that modern humanity can no longer perceive. The divine might not be distant. It might be physical, structured, and woven into the universe itself. We simply lost the ability to reach it. Do you believe humanity once had access to a deeper field of knowledge, or have we misunderstood our own past? Share your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching. If this theory made you think, remember to like the video and subscribe for more.